I have wakened in thy shelter, oh my God, and it becometh him that seeketh that shelter to abide within the sanctuary of thy protection and the stronghold of thy defense. Illumine my inner being, oh my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my outer being with the morning light of thy favor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Yuta. I see you there in the Zoom. And hello, Jeremiah. How are you? And good morning, everyone out there in Facebook. As you can see, we have an empty chair here. Unfortunately, Daryl is not able to join us today. And let's see. Oh, I didn't say hi to Mike. How you doing, Mike? And so Mike O'Shea, our chef for today, of every Sunday, is here. Mike, now I see you're out there, and I know you got other things you have to do. I don't know. Do you have any time to help me out up here, or are you going to be otherwise occupied?
Tony, I love an audience.
Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. There's a mic there. There's a mic there. And I have with today, as you know, well, just to kind of bring people up to snuff. If you've been following us, maybe you know, maybe you don't know that last week we finally finished the book that we had been studying for months, and that book was Baha'u'llah and the New Era by J.E. Esselmont. A wonderful book that gave a lot of insight into the origins of the Baha'i faith, gave a lot of insight into the teachings of the faith, and even how the faith works on a global and a local level. It's a very good resource for anyone who is. Who might be interested in knowing more about the faith, and an excellent resource rather, for anyone who happens to be a Baha'i. It's one of those books you want to have on your bookshelf. I know that today a lot of people don't read books traditional books. Wait a minute, Mike. What are you doing there? What are you doing?
Well, because I am 3 times the size of you on that
That's okay.
screen.
Don't worry
Yeah,
about that.
it's
Oh,
all
don't
right.
worry about
All
that.
right.
Don't worry about
Okay.
that. But a lot of people, they read their tablets, they read their laptops, their phones, and so forth. I'm a traditional book kind of person. I do, obviously access information through, technology is like anyone else today. But I still like the feel of a book. Now, Mike did not expect to be here with me today. He came here for other reasons. He helps us out. He actually fixes breakfast for the people who come to the Baha'i Center here in Clearwater. But as you can see, isn't with us, and so Mike has, as you heard, graciously consented to helping us out today. Now, here's the thing, Mike. We are starting to read the book, The Seven Valleys. This copy that I have actually is twofold. It's the Seven Valleys and the Four Valleys. And what we decided was we're going to look at the Seven Valleys, the Seven Valleys. And while I don't know, well, let me ask you a question. Have you read the Seven Valleys?
Yes.
You have.
A long time ago.
Okay, me too.
Started out with the easy stuff.
Okay, yeah. It was, and for me, it was a long time ago too. I went home and I got my copy of the book, and I could see. I'm one of those people that doesn't look at a book as anything sacred. You're right in it, you that kind of a thing. And I've got little notes here and there, little things underlined, and so forth and so on. Uh, Having said all that, it's been so long ago that reading it again was like I'd never read it before. You know.
Yeah.
And so I got to tell you, it is a quick read compared to other books that we've read. This will probably be I don't know, a month, month and a half max, probably, if
Yeah.
that long. But I'm being a little generous there. But in this particular copy of this book, while this doesn't tell you anything, we're looking at. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you. We're looking at a total of 43 pages. We usually do about, oh, I don't know, 5 or 6 pages a day, and
Hmm.
of larger books with smaller print. So it probably won't take that long. I guess I'm belaboring something that doesn't even need to be
Well,
discussed.
maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because the information there is rather potent.
And that's it. It's just that it's so profound, and
Hmm.
because it's so poetic, there's a
Hmm.
lot of metaphor in here. There's a lot of some of the allegories, stories, and so forth, that obviously are all meant to make a very, very deep point, or deep points. And so a lot of it, what it appears on the surface, there's so much deeper meaning to it.
Hmm.
And I got to tell you once again, as I'm reading it, uh, if you just skim it, it's like, yeah, okay, it's kind of spiritual writings. It's more of the same. I've actually had someone say that. It's just more
Hmm.
of the same, nothing new.
Hmm.
But I got to tell you, for me, it's new. It's new. It just is. And so, anyway,
Hmm.
I have this copy here. I'm going to let you read this one.
Okay.
I have my own book, my writings of Baha'u'llah book that I'm going to use. The only reason I'm pointing that out is because this book has footnotes and so forth,
Hmm.
uh, that the writings of Baha'u'llah book does not have. And so I'm going to be depending on you to point out something that might need a little deeper explanation. So I'm going to give you
Okay.
that book to use today. And what I did after having, and again, I'm going on too long about this, but after having read, or I decided I'd try and do a little more preliminary, call it research if you want to, and I found a lot of information that gave, just overviews and so forth. And so I just want to read, while there is a bit of an overview in there,
Hmm.
but I want to read it here because it also gets into the history of, Baha'u'llah's life, like most of our books do. And I kind of wanted to skip that this time and get right into, not that that's not important, I want to make that clear,
Hmm.
but it just gives such a brief overview of his life that I figured, okay, we've gone into detail with that on past books. Let's just go ahead and get into the content.
Hmm.
But in my preparation, I found some things that I thought were rather thought provoking in themselves. And so, you know what? It just occurred to me, I haven't read a prayer yet. I'm going to stop. I'm going to read a quick prayer. Okay. This is a prayer for detachment. And if you don't mind my saying so, I think when looking at this and other literature of, spiritual value, you do have to remain detached. It does take detachment. So, anyway, we're going to do a prayer of detachment. O Lord, unto thee I repair for refuge, and toward all thy signs I set my heart. O Lord, whether traveling or at home, and in my occupation or in my work, I place my whole trust in thee. Grant me then thy sufficing help so as to make me independent of all things, O thou who art unsurpassed in thy mercy. Bestow upon me my portion, O Lord, as thou pleasest, and cause me to be satisfied with whatsoever thou hast ordained for me. Thine is the absolute authority to command. And that is a prayer by the Bob. And now, before we start reading, Mike, I don't know when we're going to start reading because I came here with more questions than answers.
Okay.
But
Well,
and like I said, in my preparation that I was doing, I came across something that actually points out some questions that apparently we want to consider as we read this. And this particular article, if you want to call it that, it says Baha'u'llah's The Seven Valleys. That's the book we're reading for anyone who's just jumping on board. Baha'u'llah's The Seven Valleys is a profound mystical text that outlines the spiritual journey of the soul through 7 stages. And those 7 stages are search, love, knowledge, unity, contentment, wonderment, and true poverty and absolute nothingness. There are some questions you might want to, well, reflect on. Everyone will probably have their own answers to these. And I'm just going to read a few of these questions. These are not questions that I formulated, they're questions I came across, but I think they're good questions. First question: what does each valley represent in the context of personal spiritual development? And how can these stages be identified in one's own life? What valley are you in, if you're in any valley, when it comes to a spiritual search or a spiritual journey, shall we say? How does the concept of true poverty and absolute nothingness, let me move some of these papers aside that I have in here, and absolute nothingness challenge conventional notions of self and material success? Something we'll be considering. In what ways do the themes of the seven valleys align with or differ from the teachings of other mystical of other hang on other mystical mysticism? That's what it says. Um, eh, I guess you'd have to be familiar and reasonably well read with other mystical journeys or searches, mystical searches, in order to answer that question. There are stories in the seven valleys, and the question is, how can these allegorical stories serve as practical guides for overcoming modern day spiritual challenges? I read that question and I think about, the fact that Jesus Christ taught often with parables and stories, well known for that. What role does detachment play in the journey through these valleys? And how can one cultivate this quality without becoming indifferent to the world? And there are some other questions that I won't bother reading, but maybe we'll come back to that. It's just something to kind of get us started, something to have us thinking. And a question that I came up with myself for myself is, number one, okay, are we talking religion or spirituality? Are they the same? Are we talking both? Can you be religious without being spiritual and vice versa? Okay, can you be spiritual and not practice any particular religion? Just questions, something to think about, you know? And so hopefully we'll come up with personal answers, because this is not me thinking I've got advice for you. I don't. I don't. But hopefully, in reading this very, very, very deep writing of Baha'u'llah, The Seven Valleys, maybe we'll each come up with personal answers for ourselves. That being said, let's go ahead and start this reading of the Seven Valleys, Mike. And I'd like you to start in that section. Yeah, in the name of God, the Clement, the Merciful. That's the actual beginning
Okay.
of this reading.
Well, where would you like me to end?
Uh, just go.
Okay.
Just go.
Till I run out of air.
Okay.
All right. In the name of God, the clement, the merciful. Praise be to God, who hath made being to come forth from nothingness, graven upon the tablet of man the secrets of pre existence, taught him from the mysteries of divine utterance that which he knew not, made him a luminous book unto those who believed and surrendered themselves, caused him to witness the creation of all things in this black and ruinous age, and to speak forth from the apex of eternity with a wondrous voice in the excellent temple. To that end, excuse me, to the end that every man may testify in himself by himself in the manifestation, in the station of the manifestation of his Lord, that verily there is no God save him, and that every man may thereby win his way to the summit of realities, until none shall contemplate anything whatsoever, but that he shall see God therein.
I do want to stop you there just for a moment.
Good, because
There,
I
you're
got to
at the end of
fix
that
my
paragraph.
glasses.
And number one, again, when I read this a long, long, long time ago, I read a little bit in that book. I read a little bit in this book too, but actually it was mainly that book. And so one thing I didn't know that I just discovered is this does has the foot. This does have the footnotes. The footnotes. But
Hmm.
you mentioned the apex of eternity with a wondrous voice in the excellent temple. And one thing we want to point out: the excellent temple is a reference to the manifestation of God. Okay, the manifestation of God. Because he says what caused him to witness the creation of all things in this black and luminous age, and to speak forth from the apex of eternity with a wondrous voice in the excellent temple. And so that we just want to point out that that is a reference to the manifestation of God. And we've talked about that quite a bit in the past. Just wanted to clarify. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
And I praise and glorify the first sea, which hath branched from the ocean of the divine essence, and the first morn, which had glowed from the horizon of oneness, and the first sun, which had risen in the heaven of eternity, and the first fire, which was lit from the lamp of pre existence into the lantern of singleness. He who was Ahmad in the kingdom of the exalted ones, and Muhammad amongst the concourse of the near ones, and Mahmud in the realm of the sincere ones, by which soever name ye will invoke him, he hath most excellent names in the hearts of those who know. And upon his household and companions be abundant, excuse me, and abide, I'll go again. And upon his household and companions be abundant and abiding and eternal
I'm
peace.
going to stop you again there, Mike,
Mhm.
because one thing I guess we should have pointed out is that this actually starts out with, first of all, we need to point out that this is actually a letter written to a person whose name I do not remember. I know it's in that text. Um, a letter explaining the spiritual journey. And it starts out, this is actually an introduction. It's a hello, shall we say, and it's also an opening way of praising God in this introduction. So that's what Baha'u'llah is doing here. You can continue, please.
Further, we have hearkened to what the nightingale of knowledge sang on the boughs of the tree of thy being, and learned what the dove of certitude cried on the branches of the bower of thy heart. Methinks I verily inhaled the pure fragrances of the garment of thy love, and attained the very meeting from pursuing thy letter. And since I noted thy mention of thy death in God, and thy life through him, and thy love for the beloved of God, and the manifestations of his names and the dawning points of his attributes, I therefore reveal unto thee sacred and resplendent tokens from the plains of glory, to attract thee into the court of holiness and nearness and beauty, and draw thee to a station wherein thou shalt see nothing in creation save the face of thy beloved one, the honored, and behold all created things only as in the day wherein none shall have a mention.
Got a question for you, Mike.
Mm.
What do you think all that means? All that
It,
means.
well, to me, it means from one perceptual state of mind to another.
Ah, I like that. I like that. One of the things in my reading that I kept coming across was just the beauty, the poetic beauty of the language of this. And I look at that both as a benefit, but also a challenge. I mean, it is beautiful to read, but as poetic language and again, metaphors and so forth are often want to do. They often make it a challenge to understand the deeper meanings.
Well, that's understandable considering it wasn't initially written in English.
Yes, I'm glad you pointed that out too, because
As
because
you
it
know,
wasn't. It wasn't. But to me, I mean, we haven't gotten to the first valley yet. But I'll go ahead and give a heads up. It's a valley of search, and to me, even reading this, uh, it's like I have to want to know. I have to be. I could read this very casually and think nothing of it. But if I really want to try and on some level develop a deeper understanding of at least a portion of the intended meaning, I have to really, it's not just going to slap you in the face. You have to actually want to, you have to try to understand it. And I'm sure for some people that's not a challenge. And for some people it's more of a challenge than it may be for others. But it's just that, I read this and, I'm a simple person. I am. Why doesn't he just say, "Dear so and so, how you doing? I got something I want to talk to you about. You asked me a few questions, and so here's what I'm thinking." But no, this is a manifestation of God, and we're told in the various in other writings why this loftier language is often used. But Baha'u'llah's language is so beautifully poetic, but it does challenge the reader to think and to sometimes Google
Mhm.
some of
Mm,
the terms or grab a dictionary. Okay, I'll stop
okay.
there.
If I can add something,
Please do.
if um, when I first came across the faith and read this book, I thought this is way beyond me. Why am I even doing it if I don't
Keep talking.
really fully understand what the heck? I shouldn't use the word heck. Baha'u'llah is saying, and I just concluded that every word, even though it is in English, has a spiritual significance. And just by verbalizing it, there is an impact. And that's how I get through it because I hate poetry.
You hate
I,
poetry,
I can't
Mike.
stand
We're
poetry.
done. Get out.
I know, I know, and I consider myself a poet too.
You're serious?
Well, yeah, it's just every time I write poetry, I get a little crazy, and this
Oh, okay. And
so.
absolutely love poetry. I love poetry. I've written a lot of poetry myself, and being a songwriter as well. But that's a little bit different. Sometimes you have to get a little simpler with that. But the point is, yeah, I think that one of the beautiful things about poetry is sometimes often it can strike you personally because, at least for me, sometimes, okay, we can read something no matter who's written it, and it can have just this, right there in your face automatic kind of meaning. But the meaning isn't always absolute. And yet, if we look more deeply, a lot of times we'll find a lot more meaning. And I think that's what we're doing
Mhm,
here is we're looking at the words, of course. And if we try and find the deeper meaning, we have to go
mhm.
beyond the words for those deeper meanings.
I once asked a Persian woman if it would be beneficial to learn Arabic or Farsi in order to better understand the writings. And she said, don't bother because it's like reading Old English.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, you always lose something in translation, but yeah, that might not actually matter.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Okay, let's continue.
Just remember, you asked me up here.
But no, no, no. But I want you to understand. This is why I ask you up here. I
Yeah.
didn't ask you just to read. I really want to hear your
Well,
thoughts. I really want to hear your thoughts, and again, your experiences and so forth are just as valid and just as valuable as anyone else's. And I want to hear the perspective that you bring.
I am the Ed McMahon to your whatever that guy's name was.
You remember Ed McMahon, but you
Yeah.
don't remember Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson. Yes,
Oh
I know
my
Johnny.
goodness! Let's
Okay, so
just let's
anyways,
just read.
all
Let's.
right, I'm just going to read. Okay, here we go. Where did I leave off?
Oh boy.
None hath a mention.
Okay.
All right, okay, guys. Okay.
Wherein none hath a mention, yes.
Of this hath the nightingale of oneness sung in the garden of Gathor.
Gotti. That's what I'm calling it. I am not the
Okay.
expert. I'm saying that because that's one of those things that you go looking it up, and it's hard to
Yes.
find a
Okay.
pronunciation for it.
All
But I
right.
will say, let's see, let's see, number four. That is a reference to the Garden of Gati. Again, that's why I'm saying it,
Okay.
Gati. But it's from the Quran. It's from the Quran.
Okay. All right. I feel bad when I masticate Persian words of significance. So
It's okay.
thank
It's
you.
okay.
He saith, and there shall appear upon the tablet of thine heart a writing of the subtle mysteries of fear God, and God will give you knowledge.
Mm,
And the bird of thy soul shall recall the holy sanctuaries of preexistence and soar on the wings of longing in the heaven of walk the beaten paths of thy Lord
mm.
and gather the fruits of communion in the gardens of then feed on every kind of fruit.
Then feed on every kind of fruit. And many of these phrases and allusions that we read here. Again, some of them are coming from the Quran. Some of them are references, or again, something that is a reference to uh, a work of Persian poetry, something in some Persian poetry. I'll say Persian. It may be Arabic, but something again in works of other works of poetry. Mhm.
Should I continue?
Okay, I'll pick it up
Oh,
from
sorry.
here. No, I'll tell you what. Go ahead. Continue, Mike.
Sorry.
Continue.
By my life, O friend, wert thou to taste of these fruits from the green garden, of these blossoms which grow in the lands of knowledge, beside the orient lights of the essence in the mirrors of names and attributes, yearning would seize the reins of patience and reserve from out thy hand, and make thy soul to shake with the flashing light, and draw thee from the earthly homeland to the first heavenly abode in the center of realities, and lift thee to a plane wherein thou wouldst soar in the air, even as thou walkest upon the earth, and move over the water as thou runnest on the land.
What in the world does that mean? I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
By my life, O friend. And I'm going to do my own unauthorized interpretation. I have no authority, and Lord knows this could be wrong, but this is my own interpretation. I'll just leave it at that. And I would love it if someone could say, no, that's not what it means. This is what that actually means. By my life, O friend, wert thou to taste of these fruits. If you could just get a taste of it from the green garden of these blossoms, which grow in the lands of knowledge, if you could just know, beside the orient lights of the essence in the mirrors of names and attributes. Now, essence is capitalized there. So my assumption is always that it's either a reference to God or the manifestation of God. Beside the orient lights of the essence in the mirrors of names and attributes. In other words, other than what you can see and hear, yearning would seize the reins of patience and reserve from out thy hand. Yearning would seize the reins of patience. You could not be patient. You couldn't be reserved. You would be yearning for more. And make thy soul to shake with the flashing light, and draw thee from the earthly homeland to the first heavenly abode in the center of realities. Now, I don't pretend to know what the center of reality is, but of realities, but that is capitalized. I'm assuming once again a reference to God. In other words, you'd lose control of yourself, and lift thee to a plane wherein thou wouldst soar in the air, even as thou walkest upon the earth, and move over the water as thou runnest on the land. So, in other words, once you know these things, it can't help but, if you really give into it, it can't help but lift you. You'll want more. Wherefore may it rejoice me. He's saying, yeah, okay, so I'm happy. Wherefore may it rejoice me and thee, and whosoever mounteth into the heaven of knowledge, the heaven of knowledge, knowing, and whose heart is refreshed by this, that the wind of certitude hath blown over the garden of his being from the Sheba of the All Merciful. Again, capitalized reference to God or manifestations of God. But the way I'm getting this is, once you know what I'm about to tell you, you you won't be the same. If nothing else, you won't be the same. You will want more. You will yearn for more. You'll have problems. You might even struggle to keep control of yourself, maybe on a spiritual level. Certainly not, I'm not going to say physically, I don't know. But obviously, you're not going to be physically flying. But spiritually,
Mhm.
you'll be lifted. And when I read it and at least infer that meaning, whether it's accurate or not, hopefully it's somewhere in the ballpark. And then he finishes, or in the very next line says, and it's a paragraph all unto itself: peace be unto him who followeth the right path. And right path, capitalized. Once again, a reference to, I'll say, maybe, I don't know, divine might be wrong, but at least to the divine, a
Mhm.
reference to the divine. Okay. What time is it? How are we doing on time? It's 10:31. I told you this. I don't mean to belabor these things, but I'm going to go ahead and we'll stop just for a moment and have a little song, uh, just for a moment. So don't lose your place. This is a song that I like to do, and I always point out that this was written. I think I did this just a few weeks ago, actually, but written by a wonderful young lady in Thailand. Her name is Pat. She visited over here years ago, and every once in a while I still see her on in social media. She puts up some really nice material. Um, oh, son of being, oh, son of being, oh, son of being, oh, son, thou art my lamp and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee. O son of being, O son of being, O son of being, O son, thou art my lamp and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee. And that, of course, is one of the hidden words, one of Baha'u'llah's writings from the Arabic hidden words. And now we get back to our reading, and this is where we actually get into the first valley. So if you don't mind, Mike, I think I'm going to pick it up from there. Peace be unto him who followeth the right path. And further, this is where he starts explaining these valleys, the first of these valleys. The stages that mark the wayfarer's journey. I was reading to Nini, and she'll often jump in and just ask questions. What's that mean? And she asks, what is a wayfarer? And of course, it's traveler, someone who's simply traveling. I don't know. Am I right about that? That's the way I interpret it.
Uh, I have it as more of a negative connotation,
Oh,
a
what's
wayfarer.
your negative connotation, Mike?
A clean hobo? I don't know.
Say that again.
A hobo?
A hobo. See, yeah, I just think of it as a traveler, someone who is merely traveling
Okay.
through. It could be a hobo, but it could also be someone who has decided. Why don't we say a backpacker? Could a backpacker be a wayfarer? Someone who has decided to backpack across, some country or whatever. Could they be a wayfarer?
Not in my book, but that's just me.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go
You
look
know.
the word up. My assumption is it's a traveler, since we're on a journey.
Okay, we'll go with that. I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
But it says, and further, the stages that mark the wayfarer's journey from the abode of dust. The abode of dust is where you are, this physical existence. That mark the wayfarer's journey from the abode of dust to the heavenly homeland are said to be seven stages. The stages that mark the wayfarer's journey from the abode of dust to the heavenly homeland are said to be seven. Some have called these seven valleys, and others seven cities. And they say that until the wayfarer taketh leave of self and traverseth these stages, he shall never reach the ocean of nearness and union, nor drink of the peerless wine. They say that until the wayfarer taketh leave of self, you got to forget about yourself, or at least stop prioritizing self. And they say that until the wayfarer taketh leave of self and traverseth these stages, he shall never reach to the ocean of nearness and union, nor drink of the peerless wine. The first of these, the first valley, is the valley of search. You have to be searching. Here's my question before we get into that. Can you be searching and not know you're searching? Just a question. And if anyone in Zoom wants to answer that, or maybe, I don't know, I'm too far away from the Facebook camera. Can you be searching? Can you be on a journey and not know you're on a journey? And if you don't know you're on the journey, does the journey even matter? Does it have to be conscious? Something to think about. I don't know. I have stumbled on things accidentally, but I can never say that I stumbled on it accidentally while searching for that thing. Sometimes I'll stumble on it while searching for something else, but this is searching for something specific, I would think. The stages that mark the journey of the abode of dust to the heavenly homeland are said to be seven. The first is the valley of search. Now, Baha'u'llah uses another metaphor for a horse, the steed. The steed of this valley is patience. You have to be patient. The steed of this valley is patience. Without patience, the wayfarer on this journey will reach nowhere and attain no goal. You'll give up easily. It doesn't just come to you immediately, apparently. Whatever you're on, whatever you're searching for spiritually, in this particular case, you have to have patience. The steed of this valley is patience. He goes on to say, nor should he, the wayfarer, nor should he ever be downhearted. He should never be downhearted. If he strive for 100,000 years and yet fail to behold the beauty of the friend being God, he should not falter. For those who seek the Kabi is actually a reference to the goal of all Muslims when they go to Mecca on pilgrimage. But in this case, it simply means goal. For those who seek the Kabi of for us, rejoice in the tidings in our ways. We will guide. I'm sorry. In our ways, will we guide them? In our ways, we will guide them. You have to be patient if you're looking for guidance from God. In our ways will we guide them. In their search, they have stoutly girded up the loins of service. Searching, service. So, what's the connection?
You got to walk your talk.
Say that again.
You got to walk your talk. You can't just have words and understanding without putting it to work.
Wow. Yeah. In their search, they have stoutly girded up the loins of service and seek at every moment to journey from the plane of heedlessness into the realm of being. Now, he's juxtaposing some things there, heedlessness to being. Journey from the plane of heedlessness into the realm of being. So I'm looking heedlessness being. Are they diametrically opposed to each other? Maybe spiritually they are. Heedlessness, he says, you journey from the plane of heedlessness into the realm of being. Again, I'm not claiming to know exactly what that means, but to me it means that you have to start caring. You journey from the heedlessness into the realm of being, and maybe that's when you start becoming aware of your existence as a spiritual being. Maybe something to think about. No bond shall hold them back, and no counsel shall deter them. You are searching, you want to be on this journey, you want to be on this you want to find this thing, and nothing gets in the way. Right now, to me, we're talking about priorities. Spirituality becomes important. God becomes important. Having a sense of connection to God, or developing a sense of connection to God, becomes important. You go from heedlessness into being. No bond shall hold them back, and no counsel shall deter them. I got to ask you a question, Mike.
Mm.
How long did you say you've been a Baha'i?
Oh, well, I may I
How
first
long have you
I was
given yourself
exposed
the
to I
label?
was a oh
Yeah,
the
it's
label,
the
yes,
label.
yeah. 1980.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, you've been Baha'i for a long time.
I
Okay. I'm looking at this. No bond shall hold them back, and no counsel shall deter them. Did you ever, and again, this is not just talking about becoming a Baha'i. I want to make that clear, but I'm just using this example here. Once you made the decision, I don't know, did you know anyone that kind of tried to steer you away from
um my mother wasn't too happy.
it?
uh but no, not really.
Wow.
They were polite, but they were not enthusiastic about
And
it.
I'm thinking that even if it's not stated outright, that maybe even that, depending on our priorities, maybe we prioritize our relationships with people over our, maybe the emphasis we want to place on actually consciously entering into a walk in life that emphasizes spirituality. And that's a big
Yeah.
decision for a lot of people. It might be that people don't say, you shouldn't do this, but maybe just now they're going this way and you're going this way, or maybe you're going this way but you want to share it with them, and maybe they're not interested. And maybe in that way, some people would say, well, you know what, I like my friends, and so I'm gonna, my friends, my family, it's no big deal to them, or at least they might even disapprove. I still want to prioritize that over having a spirit or a life that emphasizes spirituality. Again, just a thought, not something you necessarily have to agree with. I'm looking at something here on the Facebook screen. One second, I just want to see what that says. Let's see. After years of reading, this is from Brenda Scott. After years of reading this, I got the meaning that Baha'u'llah meant for me. I then put it in poetry from my journey through these valleys. And Olga says, great choice of a book. And Pam says, definition of wayfarer is in traveler, as in traveler. There's more there, but it's not there. I just wanted to see what was said there. I wish we had a larger screen and I wouldn't have to go sticking my face in there. But again, these are things, a lot of these questions that I'm asking and or things that I'm saying, I just are things that I would like people to think about. I think about them. I'm not even going to say I have any answers. I will say for myself, and we'll have to stop here. I hadn't even noticed the time. Uh, I will have to say that in my own personal experience, I first and foremost can say I have a lot of friends who have absolutely no interest, not only in the Baha'i faith, they have no interest in spirituality whatsoever. No, I shouldn't put it that way. That's probably overstating it, but not in a way that is obvious. Maybe it's just a more private thing to them, but I don't see it. But I did actually have some people who love me very much that if I were to tell them, that I was going to be, let's say, a minister in the Christian tradition because there are Christians,
Hmm.
uh, they would have been patting me on my back and shouting, my praise.
Hmm.
But when I told them, that I even was investigating the Baha'i faith, oh my goodness, there were a few that I'm not going to say I lost them as friends or anything or as loved ones, but their disapproval was clear. And whether it be, choosing this or that faith, because Baha'u'llah does make it clear that this doesn't only apply to the Baha'i faith. He doesn't say it in those words, but that does come out. Basically, when we decide to emphasize a life of spirituality that may follow a religious tradition, that's not uncommon. That, there are those people that decide, well, you know what, maybe you do that. Great for you. Have a nice life, but I really don't want to be bothered with that, And so
Hmm.
it's going from heedlessness into the realm of being, and but it says no bond shall hold them back, and no counsel shall deter them. We are going to stop there and continue this next Sunday, um, hopefully, all God willing. And what we're going to do now is, as always, we are going to have anyone that would like to offer up a prayer or reading of your choosing or a song. This is that time. I don't think Andy is with us. We haven't seen Andy in a few weeks now. Hopefully, he'll join us sometime soon. But is there anyone who would like to offer up a prayer or reading? And I only wish the people in Facebook could do that, but this is all in print here. Um, but anyone in the Zoom that might
Sure.
like to offer up a prayer or reading, Terry,
Yes. Give me a
please.
minute.
Hmm.
Okay, we'll say a prayer for nearness to God.
Okay.
Verily, I am thy servant, O my God, and thy poor one, and thy suppliant, and thy wretched creature. I have arrived at thy gate, seeking thy shelter. I have found no contentment save in thy love, no exaltation except in thy remembrance, no eagerness but in obedience to thee, no joy save in thy nearness, and no tranquility except in reunion with thee. Notwithstanding that I am conscious that all created things are debarred and I found no contentment save in thy love, no exaltation except in thy remembrance, no eagerness but in obedience to thee, no joy save in thy nearness, no tranquility except in reunion with thee. Notwithstanding that I am conscious that all created things are debarred from thy sublime essence, the entire creation is denied access to thine inmost being. Whenever I attempt to approach thee, I perceive nothing in myself but the tokens of thy grace, and behold not in my being but the revelations of thy loving kindness. How can one who is but thy creature seek reunion with thee and attain unto thy presence, whereas no created thing can ever be associated with thee, nor can aught comprehend thee? How is it possible for a lowly servant to recognize thee and to extol thy praise, notwithstanding that thou hast destined for him the revelations of thy dominion and the wondrous testimonies of thy sovereignty? Thus, every created thing beareth witness that it is debarred from the sanctuary of thy presence by reason of the limitations imposed by its inner reality. It is undisputed, however, that the influence of thine attraction hath everlastingly been inherent in the realities of thy handiwork, although that which beseemeth the hallowed court of thy providence is exalted beyond the attainment of the entire creation. This indicateth, O my God, my utter powerlessness to praise thee, and reveal with my utmost impotence in yielding thanks unto thee, and how much more to attain the recognition of thy divine unity, or to succeed in reaching the clear tokens of thy praise, thy sanctity, and thy glory. Nay, by thy might, I yearn for naught but thee, thine own self, and seek none other than thee. This is a prayer from the Bob.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to share a prayer? Well, I would like to share this prayer for humanity. It's a prayer by Abdul Baha. And, it's hard to find a prayer that is not relevant in some way. I think almost pretty much impossible, but this to me is very timely. O God, O thou who hast cast thy splendor over the luminous realities of men, shedding upon them the resplendent lights of knowledge and guidance, and has chosen them out of all created things for this supernal grace, and has caused them to encompass all things, to understand their inmost essence, and to disclose their mysteries, bringing them forth out of darkness into the visible world. He verily showeth his special mercy to whomsoever he will. O Lord, help thou thy loved ones to acquire knowledge and the sciences and arts, and to unravel the secrets that are treasured up in the inmost reality of all created beings. Make them to hear the hidden truths that are written and embedded in the heart of all that is. Make them to be ensigns of guidance amongst all creatures, and piercing rays of the mind shedding forth their light in this, the first life. Make them to be leaders unto thee, guides unto thy path, runners urging men on to thy kingdom. Thou verily art the powerful, the protector, the potent, the defender, the mighty, the most generous. And this is a prayer by Abdul Baha. How are we doing on time? We've got to go ahead and get another clock back there. We've only got a couple of minutes here, but as always, we always like to remind people that this is an ongoing effort. Every once in a while, we start thinking maybe we need to go ahead and maybe close the book on this chapter. But as you can see, we've started another book, so we won't be closing it anytime in the very near future. But who knows what's going to happen, sometime in the future. But we like to people always let people know that. That there are places or references you can go to. Primarily, we like to tell people about online references because that's what's usually used for today. And some of the websites that are available to you are www.baha'i.org, www.baha'i.us. There's www.bahaiteachings.org. We are here at the Clearwater Center. They also have a website that you can go to, Clearwater Baha'is .org, and there are others. There's also Oceans Library, I think .org. The point is, there are places that you can go online to get valid and credible information to learn more about the Baha'i faith. And who knows, you might even live somewhere where you have Baha'is right there as your neighbors and friends and people whose paths you cross, and we encourage you to seek them out. Um, and I'm rushing here. That's why I'm just kind of running all this off. Uh, it's important to remember that, as we are on this spiritual journey, that we need to do what we can to put that spirituality into action. I mean, that prayer by Abdul Baha mentioned being leaders and guides to this path that we're all trying to walk to the best of our abilities. And so I think I'll just go ahead and close out. We've only got a minute here, so I'll just say, I'll just say it. Let your vision be world embracing rather than confined to your own self. As Baha'u'llah says, watch over yourselves, for the evil one is lying in wait, ready to entrap you. Gird yourselves against his wicked devices, and led by the light of the name of the all seeing God, make your escape from the darkness that surroundeth you. Let your vision be world embracing rather than confined to your own self. Folks, have yourself a good week. Go out, show some love to someone, as many people as you can. Have a good week, folks. Take care.